Hey guys, West Coast Taco here, and welcome to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. Well, today guys, I have some very interesting news. We're going to be trading out my Gator SRX cover. I know I've loved that cover, and we're trading it in for the Gator TRAX. Let's dive in and see how they compare. So as many of you are more than aware, the Gator SRX cover has been a tremendous and absolutely awesome modification to my vehicle. No complaints whatsoever. It allows me to use the entire bed while still using my cargo divider. It's made of vinyl, not the heaviest duty material, but so far an A+. But today, guys, we're going to remove it. We're going to try out the Gator TRAX cover. Now, obviously, the greatest difference between the Gator TRAX and the SRX is the actual material that is used as the tonneau cover. So the Gator TRAX is a hard composite cover with some pretty hefty rails, and the SRX, as you can see, was just a vinyl cover with some thinner rails. But I love this cover, guys. I have zero complaints. The only complaint I have about it is that it's made of vinyl, which obviously it's easier to get into in regards to all you really need is a knife to cut through it, and you will have access to someone's truck. But outside of that, it has done everything I've asked of it. It keeps the back of my bed clean, and it's been fantastic. But let's open up this Gator TRAX cover and see what's inside. So as we open up these instructions, the first step is to remove all the materials from the packaging. So let's get at it. So one of the things that stuck out to me the most as I was unpackaging some of these materials was how much heftier and how much more of a heavy duty material the rails were for the TRAX compared to the SRX. Tools needed for the install are simple: scissors, a socket wrench, a Phillips head screwdriver, a 9x16 socket, and a 7x16 socket. For step number 2, we are going to be removing the packaging materials that they use to transport this in. So you got a plastic clip on either side. We're going to remove that with the Phillips head screwdriver, and you will save this for later, so do not throw them away. You're also going to have a clear tube that is in there to keep the tonneau cover from unwinding. You're going to remove that, and you're going to do the same thing on the other side as well. Once that's completed, we're going to install the rails onto the tonneau cover canister. Very important step, make sure you press that release button on the latch so that the tonneau cover will move freely and go into the rails. Also used some of my packaging materials to kind of assist with keeping those rails level with the floor, so I could easily insert the tonneau cover into the rails. These 2 holes you see here, we're going to get the 4 silver screws that come in this package. There's only 4 of them. And we're going to go ahead and put one there, and then do the same thing to the other side. Once again, this packaging material was super helpful keeping these rails up. Definitely a recommendation. And the last 2 screws, we're going to insert these and make sure everything is nice and secure. And just in case you're unsure if you put the screws in the right places, these rails are kind of fail-proof. There's little cutouts in the tonneau cover canister to line up with the rail notches, as you can see. So as long as those are in place and the screws are in, you're good to go. Next, you're going to install the front cover, and you will need the 2 black screws with the hex heads, as well as the Allen wrench to install this portion. Very easy setup here, guys. You're going to slide it in. That black stripping will be facing outboard that you can see under my hand. Once those are tightened down, you can double check the other screws you've already tightened with the Phillips heads, and then this baby is ready to go on the back of the truck. When putting the cover on the bed, make sure to use 2 people just to be safe, as there's a lot of portions of this tonneau cover that could scratch and damage your truck in the process. Next, you can go ahead and reuse those white plastic clips to create an 1/8 of an inch space between the tailgate and where the rails fit. I didn't need to use these, as I was able to actually use the front as more of a measuring point, and I'll dive into that later, but basically I'll use the weather stripping to kind of create that proper distance, and it actually worked out pretty well. This piece of foam you see came with my SRX cover, so I'm going to leave that on there because it actually helped create that 1/8 of an inch gap. And then these other foam pieces came with the SRX as well, and you'll receive 2 new ones that come with the TRAX, but I didn't need to reuse them. So let's move on to the next part. So next, we're going to go ahead and take 2 blocks and slide them into the bed rails on either side. Once that's completed, I went ahead and organized all of my hardware to make sure that nothing got, mumble jumbled or lost. This right here is a diagram essentially of what you're going to be creating with the hardware in order to mount the tonneau cover rail and the bed rail to each other. And here's an example of how this works. Go ahead and take one of your larger hex bolts, slide one of those crush washers on it, and then take one of these larger silver blocks and go ahead and mount it onto the blocks that you slid into the rail. Just don't tighten it down all the way. Once that's completed, you're going to go ahead and grab one of those longer bronze bolts and slide one of those black washers on it, and you're going to line it up with this hole and essentially feed it through there and just slightly tighten it down with the hand so that way everything is lined up. And once everything's lined up, you're going to go ahead and start tightening that larger silver hex bolt at the bottom, and be sure not to tighten it down all the way, but just enough where it's not going to move anymore. Then you can go ahead and pull out that larger bronze bolt and essentially feed it through this spacer block that I just fed through the top here. Once that's pushed in, tighten it down, and then you can go back and forth and make sure all the bolts are tightened, and you're going to be good to go. You're going to do this a total of 4 times to create a secure fit of the tonneau cover rails to the bed rails of your truck. And in order to make sure all of the rails are essentially at an equal distance from top to bottom, you're going to make sure there's no more than 1/16 of an inch difference at all 3 points when measuring. Next, we're going to install the tubes to drain the water from the canister when it rains or when you wash your truck. The holes in the composite bed for draining do not match up with the size of the tubes that come with these. So I went ahead and just trimmed mine and had them pointed down to those corners so that the water can escape down the holes that are already drilled in the composite bed. And just because I had to see, I really gave it my best shot at reinstalling my cargo divider into the bed of the truck. However, I very quickly learned that the latch that is used to open and close or essentially move the tonneau cover back and forth on the rail system, that latch, guys, will get caught and it won't pass over the rails on the cargo divider. So I cannot run the cargo divider with the Gator TRAX cover. So a little bit of a disappointment, but I haven't honestly ran the bed of my truck without a cargo divider since I've had it. So if I need to change it up or get something different, I can always buy a net. But yeah, I had to give it a shot, and I also wanted to see if it would work, just so you guys could know before going through the process and headache of trying to install it yourselves. Alright, so what do you guys think of the GatorTrax tonneau cover? I hope you guys enjoyed the installation and you guys were helped. If you decide to go with this tonneau cover, guys, there is a link in the description that you can click on. It'll take you to this exact tonneau cover, or it can also take you to the SRX tonneau cover that I've been running for the past year, and I highly recommend. So they're both there in the description. But guys, I've had a few people reach out to me wanting me to do a review on a hard tonneau cover. And I didn't want to just get a cheap hard one. I wanted to get one that I felt I could really take a beating and really hold up and, just follow through with those paces. And you're going to pay for this one, guys. This one is almost $1,600. So between $300 and $1,600, guys, that's a pretty big delta. But the materials are heavy duty. And let's get into some of the measurements, because that's my biggest drawback with this so far is, these rails stick over a little bit. They're about 4 inches into the bed, so about 4 inches of side-to-side space. And this is where I really feel like you take a hit. You're going to lose close to, 14 inches from the canister being in the back of the bed. And that's pretty significant. But before we get too far along, let's talk about some of the troubleshooting I did and some of my recommendations in regards to the installation. And the first one I'm going to mention of when you're measuring the distance between the tailgate and the rubber lining by the tailgate, I used the front liner and gave myself about a 1/4 to 1/8 inch gap from side to side. And then that gave me almost a perfect fit when it came to that rubber seal bumping up against the tailgate. And as you can see, it doesn't go on top like the SRX. It actually goes on the inside. So when I close the tailgate here, it should be kind of pushing it in a little bit to create that seal from water and snow and dirt getting inside of there. So there you go. Yeah, you can see it fits perfectly here. So what I did is I kept the tonneau cover a little bit loose when it came to the bolts, and then I slid it forward just a little bit so I could get a perfect fit, and then I tightened the bolts down. That's going to give you a little bit of a tip and a little bit of a cheating way of doing it. so you don't have to kind of finagle with it again and again. And that worked out really well for me. Also, these pillars right here, the bottom portion of the rails where the pillars meet, there can sometimes be a gap. And what I would recommend doing is loosening up the bolt on the bottom portion, and then pushing down with it, in regards to pushing down on the rail itself and then retightening it. And it should give you a flush finish, because that's the biggest problem a lot of people have when it comes to hard tonneau covers. They say that water gets in easier. And here's a quick little video on how I do this. So as you can see, I loosen up the bolt, the big silver bolt at the bottom. And once I do that, I go ahead and kind of let, obviously, it come up a little bit. And then I re-push down and then tighten the bolt with me pushing the leverage onto the side of the bed as well as that rail. And then you're good. You'll get a nice flush seal. So pretty easy adjustment there. And now, as you can see, it's flush and there's no gap and everything fits perfectly. So one of my favorite advantages to having a hard tonneau cover, guys, is this lock. It's really nice being able to secure the tonneau cover from the exterior and it not being vinyl where someone could cut in and just easily break into the truck. So that right there, guys, is a big win. So for those of you who carry a lot of valuables or very important items, this thing's rock solid. And it's going to give you definitely more security than a vinyl tonneau cover. My biggest reasons for getting a vinyl, tonneau cover was because I just wanted something to cover the back of my truck to keep dirt, debris, and water from getting in there, because we all know that cleaning the beds can be a royal pain in the butt. They're just not easy to clean, and it takes a lot of work. And the tonneau cover really minimizes that. It also helps with miles per gallon, as it keeps that wind from catching up against the tailgate. And I think a tonneau cover looks really nice on the truck. It kind of completes it. It kind of finishes it off. And this one, guys, I don't think there's any denying that this thing looks super nice. It looks great. And I really couldn't be happier for what it is. I would love if they had a tonneau cover that didn't take up any space of my bed, or didn't stack up on it really tall like a paper towel roll would up here. But for what it is, guys, I think I'm going to be pretty happy with it. And, as I mentioned, you can lock this tonneau cover into wherever you need it to be. So if you need to slide it back a little bit and then lock it, or slide it all the way back, you can adjust where you want it to stay. And it can, like I said, act kind of as a cargo divider, as long as the item that you're wanting to secure is, taller than the bed. But yeah, guys, a really good product, a really nice setup. It looks great. It works great. And, like I said, I'm going to give it a year. I really want to see how well it works. And I don't want to be that guy that just tries it for a little bit and then says I like it or don't like it. I want to actually see if I miss the SRX and my cargo divider as much as I think I will. However, once again, I can put a net or something else to create a cargo divider in the back and still give myself the ability to only use a portion of my bed when so desired. So, guys, final thoughts. I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, I think the GatorTrax cover is a 10 for the class of a tonneau cover it's in. These tonneau covers, when you start getting into the retractable ones, they're kind of in that upper echelon of tonneau covers where you're buying them because you want, premium security, you want a clean look and finish, and you just want something that's going to look really, really nice on the vehicle and give you probably the most durability because of the material it's made out of and just how heavy of a duty of a product it is. So for those of you guys living like in the snow, in extreme heat, and that vinyl is just going to get tore up and beat up pretty quickly, this is a tonneau cover that I would highly recommend just because of the material and just how many years I think you can really get out of this tonneau cover. Obviously, the biggest issue I see with it, outside of losing, some of that bed space, especially for you 5-footer guys, if you got that 5-foot bed, how often do you really use all of your bed? It's not like we're putting, 5-foot or 6-foot blocks into the back of our bed. Usually the items we're putting in there will fit within reason, and if they don't, like it's a surfboard, we'll prop them up on top of the tailgate or something like that. But For the most part, losing 14 inches of real estate in the bed of your truck is a pretty significant amount, and then you lose about 8 inches of total on sides because of the rails. So outside of the drawbacks in regards to losing some space, which is why I liked the SRX tonneau cover so much, would be the price. Because paying almost $1,700 after taxes for a tonneau cover is pretty expensive. But if it's something that makes sense for you to buy because you need it to protect something or you want it to last a very long time and it's going to fit your needs, then like I said, I couldn't think of a better tonneau cover that's going to really do what this does, like the way this does. So, $300 for the SRX, $1,700, give or take, for the TRAX. And once again, only you guys will be able to decide which one makes the most sense for you based off of your needs, your everyday use, and also how long you think it's going to last. Because I think the SRX tonneau cover, guys, would last me a very, very long time here in Southern California where our weather is milder. I'm not rolling up my tonneau cover every day. That tonneau cover is really great for people that use their trucks mainly for the weekends and just want to keep the bed of their truck clean and keep the things inside of it that they're pulling or moving or hauling around town from flying out or getting damaged from the sun or weather. For someone who has a reason, like in the regards to it being a job, maybe they're keeping a lot of very expensive tools or equipment, or like I said, maybe you live in an area where you get a ton of snow and it's extremely hot. Obviously the TRAX is going to be the premium cover that's going to give you the most protection and the longest life. So you guys are going to need to be the ones that decide which one works best for you. But what I wanted to do was kind of give you, obviously, my 1-year opinion of the SRX, because it's been over a year now since I've had it. And then let's put on this TRAX and give it a year and see what I really think about it come a year from now. But in the meantime, would love to see if you guys have any questions. Would love to hear your 2 cents. Once again, in the description is a link for both the SRX and the TRAX cover. And would be interested to know if you pick either one or if you've already picked either one. And let me know how you're liking it, what you would do if you could do it differently. And until the next one, guys, I'll be talking to you soon. See ya.